This passage, which you may have heard before, came into my mind recently. Advice, and it came into my mind and struck me with kind of a different kind of meaning than I have heard, than I have taken from when I've heard it before. When I would hear it before, it didn't strike me very much, but maybe you've heard it. It's from the Diamond Sutra, and it says that you should view this fleeting world as a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. So how do we view those things? How do we view a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, a dream? What is a relationship that we have with any of those things? What comes to your mind? There's no right answer. Go ahead, Cheryl. What is that? Fleeting, yeah. With awe, yeah. That's been more of my interpretation of it than how I kind of took it before. It's almost like a negative or something. Fleeting is right. And with awe. Fleeting was the only way I took it before. You should really view this fleeting world as a star at dawn. View all things as a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream. So with awe, yeah, it's exactly right. And we don't tend to cling to those things, right? You don't try to grab a hold of the flash of lightning or the bubble. And that is one of the instructions in the mindfulness, in the original mindfulness instructions in the Satipatthana Sutta, is to view things without clinging to them. So with an attitude of letting go. The Ajahn Chah, as a teacher, would teach that really regularly. So many of you know about my brother died about 10 days ago. And so that's a big loss. He's like one of the first beings I ever knew on this earth plane. And I was taking care of him for a little while when he was sick, as Cheryl knows. But that's when this phrase came to me. And it was because the image of him would come into my mind. And this mindfulness practice really prepares you for all the stuff in the world, all of the difficult emotions that you face when you practice mindfulness. So when they come, we're really well prepared for those things. And we're more observant of the processes rather than getting lost in whatever sadness is or grief or whatever. It still comes, but one can get lost in it, or one can. So his image kept coming up, and that's what feels like a bubble. The image of him in my mind, and then everything associated with that. And it's very clear to me that's not here anymore. It's gone. That is gone. And it's just an image in my mind. And when I would think about the image, that's when the pain and suffering would come. But my mind kept going, that's not here anymore. That's gone. It's something else. Like, I'm sure of that at this point in my practice, that the mind goes off into another place, and I don't know where that is. That's the mystery of us dying. And you don't have to believe that. The Buddha never said you have to believe anything, so don't worry about it. I've just seen from my own practice, mine should probably go somewhere. And Marianne and I were just talking about, we have our ideas about things. We were talking about in reference to the fact that I live in Las Vegas, and that doesn't usually sound intriguing to people at all. And and I completely understand that, because that's 1 year before I lived there, exactly how I felt when somebody told me they live in Vegas. I thought, why would anybody do that? And yet here I am, and I love it. I really love living there. And I have a friend that wrote an article who also lives in Las Vegas about how there's an idea about cities. That's true of everywhere. It's true of Paris, it's true of New York, it's true of LA, it's true of all places. And then there's the reality of living in there, of being there, of just even being there. But it's pretty stark with Las Vegas. There's kind of one view of what Vegas is, and nobody wants to live there in their idea. But actually living there is really lovely. It's affordable. You can have nice things. Like I was telling Marianne, we have lots of public parks. There's whatever. There's lots of good things about it. But that's true of everything. There's our ideas about things, and then there's the reality of it. There's our stories and our interpretations, and then there's what's actually going on. We have stories about public figures. We have stories about politicians. We have stories about our friends. When Indra says, the thought of your mother is not your mother. I love that. Our thoughts about things are not reality. And that's exactly what we see when we're practicing mindfulness. We're bringing attention more into reality, direct experience rather than interpretation, should, shouldn't, judging, all of that. But we see the story-making mind, and we want to, as it arises, a thought of your mother. You know, could be a whole series of what happens right now. Think of your mother. Whew, whatever. Or the reality of the mother is a completely different thing. I came out of a retreat one time with that I was on, and I don't have a great relationship with my mother. Long story, whatever, doesn't matter. But I came out of a retreat and visited her one time, and that was very clear. My mind for a period was free of my past of her. And I saw her as just really fresh and a precious, precious human being. I could see right into her as a precious human being. And that was very liberating. That was really wonderful. So I have always found it very exciting to let go of my judgments, opinions, and views of people, my stories of people, because it's always a view of the world that's either like this or like this. You know, it's tight and contracted and small and not that fun to live in, or it's free and it's open and it's spacious and loving and compassionate and understanding. So that was a lot of talking, and I'm not even on what I'm going to be talking about tonight. We have been on a theme of the paramis on this Wednesday night group with Gulu and Christiana. Jack Cornfield will be here next week. And they wouldn't respond to my email today about which paramis they have covered, so I might be covering one. My meditation teacher friends, they're very not good at responding to emails. So I wanted to talk about equanimity. I don't know if you guys have been coming regularly to it. The paramis are the perfections, the qualities of mind that we can develop in a lifetime. Qualities that are what are called kusala, which is translated mostly as wholesome, and that means mind states which are beneficial, and which really the whole of Buddhist meditation practice is what we're doing, practicing and cultivating, training the mind to bring about states that are beneficial. They're beneficial as we experience them. They're beneficial for those around us. They lead to benefit in the future through this law of cause and effect. Are you guys familiar with any mind states that are not so beneficial? Anybody ever have experience with those? No. No, not Amy. Unbeneficial jealousy, worry, craving. We've got a whole. So those are in our minds. They're not you. They arise out of conditions. They're not random. Everything that comes into the mind does so from conditions. If we want certain qualities to come in the mind, we have to put the conditions in for them to come. And so that's what the paramis are. We can practice generosity. We can practice virtue. We can practice truthfulness. We can practice loving kindness. We can practice and cultivate. And if we don't put our mind on these things and practice them, then they don't tend to happen. So self-awareness, real self-honesty is what the Buddhist path is all about. And then, when we start becoming more aware, we see where we can make changes. But we're studying the mind. You don't want to believe somebody else that tells you these are good qualities, so you should live by them. When we sit with mindfulness, we're really seeing that for ourselves. You see it by seeing, what is the effect of this on me? What is the effect of this in the world? And we want to study and verify within our own experience what really works for us in the heart mind, and what can we abandon? What can we let go of? What can we really try to weaken? In Burma, they will talk about overcoming certain mind states. I was talking to Trudy today. She's writing something on anxiety. She said, what comes up for you when I say anxiety? What came up for me was my own personal journey with anxiety, which at one point in my life, it was very debilitating. I had a period where I was a little agoraphobic, actually. Going into a grocery store filled me with dread. And it actually came up after I went to Burma one time. It was after an intensive retreat practice. Don't let that make you not going to retreat, okay? Because the only way out is through. Things do come to the surface, but you solve those things when they do come to the surface, when they come up. It doesn't cause it. Retreats don't cause that. It means something's in there, and that can bring those things to the surface. So that happens. Meditation leads to agoraphobia for a while, and then, no, not for everybody, but that was my path. That was my path. And then I got through. And then I really got through, and I'm not at all afraid of anxiety anymore. It is not an issue for me. I did overcome it. It's not that it doesn't arise for me. I don't mind if it arises. It's welcome. It can arise, and it doesn't overwhelm me. Before, I would want to avoid that feeling, completely. I say it a lot, but all feelings all emotions are grief. What's one you really don't like experiencing? What emotion? Irritation. Envy. What is it? Shame. Yes. Good ones. We all feel all of them. Any emotion is, or thoughts in the head, feelings in the body. And we can go to a lot of great lengths just to avoid that. But we've done it already. We've done that already. We've had all those feelings. And with mindfulness, we really learn how to be with all of them. So, where was I going with that? Equanimity. Equanimity. I don't know how I went there. Okay, let's talk about equanimity. Equanimity is, it's hard because it's a word that doesn't quite capture the essence of it, because it can be mistaken for kind of indifference. Equanimity, when it's really experienced in the purest form, this thing that is upekkha, is the Pali word for it, is a deep sense of connection with life and an evenness. It's an open-heartedness. It's a fearlessness. You know, we wake up in the morning kind of wanting everything to go good for us. And that is stressful because life does what it does, right? And if we have like an agenda, like it just needs to be like this: comfortable, nice people, pleasant experiences, good food, sunny day. We have that. It's an agenda each day that we wake up, right? That's dukkha. That's what that is. And equanimity is like whatever it is, it's fine. It's like a broad, wide open heart. That's really what equanimity is. Is it painful? Okay, fine, I can handle that. Is it pleasant? I can handle that. It's a stability of heart. And it's cultivatable. And when we practice mindfulness, we do cultivate. That's one of the qualities that we're cultivating. Because when you practice mindfulness, things are pleasant, sometimes they're unpleasant, sometimes they're neutral, sometimes, and you're staying steady moment by moment with the change. Whatever is here is fine, whatever is here is fine. What is this note that I put here? Oh, from Thanissaro Bhikkhu. Remember that emotions cause you to act. They're paths leading to good or bad karma. This is karma, cause and effect, observable. It's not something that we believe as a doctrine in Buddhist practice. With Vipassana meditation, it's observable that our intentions will lead to effects. Thoughts, words, and actions are always having an effect. So we're creating our world that we live in. And the origination of that is within the mind. So our emotions create the good or bad karma. When you see them as paths, you can transform them into a path you can trust. As you learn how to deconstruct emotions of ill will, hard-heartedness, resentment, and distress, and reconstruct, here he's talking about the Brahma Viharas, of which upekkha is one, metta, karuna, compassion, loving kindness. In their place, you don't simply attain an unlimited heart, you gain practice in mastering the processes of fabrication. There's so many belief systems that give away your personal power, as if somebody else can change things for you. The Buddha was very clear about that. I cannot do this for you. We have to do it ourselves, which means we're powerful, which means we're creators, and we are infinite beings. And nobody tells us that. Nobody ever tells us that, but we are, and we're creating constantly. It means we're not victims. It means nobody else is a victim. It means that we are all on a path that was created. And you don't have to believe that, but it is very empowering to start to, because then you go, oh, the person that I have to pay attention to is me. That's it. The only person I have to pay attention to is me. What am I doing? They may be acting like assholes, right? They are, aren't they? They're all acting like a bunch of assholes, right? Like constantly, right? And there's a sutta that says that they may be acting like assholes, but I will not act like an asshole. No, really, really, really. They may kill others. I'm not going to kill others. They may slander others. I'm not going to slander others. They may use harsh language. I'm not going to. And that's so liberating, right? Our minds often go outwards, looking at what other people do. I think I said this the last time I was here, but what some monk said, if you want to pay attention to others, do so maybe 10% of the time. And then pay attention to yourself 90% of the time. And that turns out that's a recipe for lifting yourself up, for lightening your load, for taking care of you. The Buddha talked about this cultivating of the mind as being a path upward. And that was one of the things that I felt right away in my practice. Like suddenly my life just started lifting up. Clarity started to come, and the circumstances around me started to get better because of that. And that is the promise of an examined life. Coming to know ourselves more, we plant these seeds, and yeah, it's powerful. It's really powerful. So we live in a world of the 8 worldly ones. Have you guys heard of them? You know the 8 worldly ones? Some of you have heard of them. What are they? What is it? Gain and loss. Yes, praise and blame, success and failure. Is that how it is? Some people say gain and loss. Pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute. We were talking about P. Diddy earlier. He's going, I'm feeling for P. Diddy. I am. I know he did wrong. I know he did wrong. I feel for people when they do wrong, though. But talk about fame and disrepute, huh? That's a worldly wind. He's in jail right now. Can you imagine that? Alexis and I were talking about it. Can you imagine going from being a billionaire, like to anywhere, flying, do whatever, to sitting in a tiny jail cell? Oof, that's a worldly wind. Alexis believes, well, maybe these are the conditions he needs to awaken. So we live in a world where these are in fluctuation all the time. Praise and blame are part of every life. Have you been praised before? Have you been blamed? Yes. Success and failure. Another thing we're not really told, pleasure and pain. We can have a little story that we're meant to have one side of all these things, and you're not living your life right if you experience the other side. The Buddha was very clear. He experienced those things. Anybody that is successful at anything experiences all of those things. And so it's equanimity that helps us to bear all of that. And the wisdom that these things are inevitable in this world system that we live in. These are all part of life. Fully accept that, then it's not so surprising. That's one thing when my brother passed away that definitely I wasn't surprised. I know people die. I mean, we all know people die, but when you practice Vipassana, you really know people die. And so it's never surprising. And that's good, because that takes away a lot of pain. You don't want to be surprised by those things. We try to shove it away, try to deny it, think that we're doing something wrong if we die. But we're facing reality constantly with us. So equanimity helps us to bear these inevitable changes in life, the difficulties and the good things, quote unquote. In the suttas, it says there's 7 mental qualities that support the development of equanimity. So other things that we can do to support the development of equanimity are sila, virtue or integrity, support equanimity. So when we're conscientious about our own actions in the world, it will naturally lead to a more stable, equanimous mind. Sada, faith, leads to equanimity. Faith is my new favorite quality, which I never was very strong in. But it's described in, I can't remember where, but as something that makes the heart serene, a quality that makes the heart serene and leaps forward. I love that. As soon as I heard that description, I was like, oh, now I know what faith is. I didn't know before. It's a quality that we can use in our meditation practice as you begin to have a direct experience that meditation is beneficial for you. And then it would make your heart serene because you know it, you're practicing, it's going to lead you to benefit. And then leap forward because you're going to have those benefits of practice. I think I denied that as a feeling or misunderstood it as that's what the Buddha meant by craving or desire or something, any kind of movement forward. But faith isn't. It's a positive, brightening quality of mind. And then we want to put faith in things that are trustworthy. The Buddha always talked about a verified faith. So we put the faith in the practice of meditation because it will always lead to benefit. A well-developed mind is a mental quality that supports the development of equanimity. That's what all meditation is. It's the development of our mind. A sense of well-being. That made a lot of sense to me. How can we support our own sense of well-being? Taking care of your body, sleeping well, eating well, just taking care of your health, right? Will give you a sense of well-being. That sense of well-being can lead to equanimity. And then wisdom, panya is the word for wisdom. I really love the translation of panya as understanding. Understanding the way life is, understanding the way things are, understanding how greed, hatred, and delusion arise in our own hearts and in the hearts of others. Insight, as we practice Vipassana meditation, it leads to various stages of insight. We're at Insight LA, so maybe you know this already. The insights take a specific path of understanding. You observe impermanence, you observe cause and effect, you observe the not-self nature of phenomenon. And one of the deeper insights is a stage of equanimity where you really taste that quality. And then the last one, this was a translation, so I actually don't have much to expand on this last one, but liberation is the last one. It was a translation, so I don't quite get the original word there. Anyways, you've got 6 out of the 7 ways of developing. So our minds are in the Abhidhamma, which is the Buddhist text for psychology. It lays out how things come into being in your mind specifically. You put in certain causes and you bring out the conditions for peace and happiness, well-being, concentration, bliss, rapture, or we can put in the causes for depression, anxiety, fear, misery, right? So it's not random, right? We need to remind ourselves of that. It's not random. Staying awake is turning the light on inside is nothing but good. It's illuminating, it's liberating, it's upward and onward leading. So how wonderful that we have exposure to this practice. It's delightful, and how wonderful to be able to sit together. I really feel it in the meditation practice. Being in a group is different, isn't it? Yeah. It's better than the Sundays even, like the online it's a thing too, but a group sitting amongst each other is really great. We support each other, feel that energy. Okay, I'm done talking. Let's open up for some questions or thoughts or shares.